What I'm about to tell you is something most people will never understand. Not because it is hidden from them, but because they were never meant to hear it in the first place. This kind of message does not circulate through noise or distraction. It moves silently, almost like a whisper carried through dimensions, finding only those who are ready to receive it. And somehow, against all odds, it has found you. If you feel that subtle tension rising in your chest, that unexplainable pull toward these words, that quiet voice inside you saying, "This feels true," then you already know this is not random. You've been sensing something shifting beneath the surface of your life, something you couldn't fully explain, but could never fully ignore. It's as if your reality paused mid-motion, like time itself hesitated around you, and nothing seems to move, no matter how hard you push forward. To others, it might look like you're stuck, like you've lost momentum, like something isn't working. But deep down, you feel that this isn't failure. It's something else, something deeper. Because you are not stuck. You are being held in a space between what was and what is about to be born. You are standing in the tension between timelines, where your old identity is dissolving piece by piece, while your next self waits just beyond visibility. That discomfort you feel is not meaningless. It is a signal, a divine interruption, a moment designed to shift everything. You were taught to measure your life by visible progress, to believe that movement only counts when it can be seen, tracked, and validated by the outside world. But what you are experiencing right now challenges that belief at its core, because this phase of your life is not about visible progress. It is about internal reconstruction. It feels like nothing is happening, but in truth, everything is happening beneath the surface, in layers too deep for the physical eye to detect. Not because you failed, but because you are being recalibrated. Not because you are lost, but because you are being redirected towards something that requires a different version of you. There is a quiet transformation unfolding within you, reshaping your thoughts, your emotional patterns, your perception of reality itself. You've probably noticed it in subtle ways, the way certain conversations no longer resonate, the way environments that once felt normal now feel draining, the way your desires have begun to shift without explanation. This is not confusion. This is alignment in progress. Your energy is changing, and as your energy evolves, your external reality must reorganize itself to match it. What feels like stagnation is actually a deep, energetic upgrade, one that cannot be rushed, one that demands your stillness so it can complete its work. There is an invisible structure that most people move through without ever questioning it. A system built on repetition, expectation, and unconscious agreement. It tells people who they should be, what they should want, and how their life should unfold. And most people follow it without resistance, never realizing that they are living within a script they didn't consciously choose. But something in you began to resist that script. You started to notice the patterns, the emptiness behind certain goals, the strange feeling that even when you followed the right path, something still felt off. That moment of awareness was not small, it was a turning point. Because the moment you questioned the system, you stepped outside of it. And once you step outside of it, you cannot return to unconscious living. This is why your journey feels different. This is why your life does not unfold in predictable ways. This is why things sometimes feel harder, deeper, more intense. Not because you are being punished, but because you are no longer asleep. You are seeing what others cannot see, and that awareness changes everything. It pulls you away from paths that are not truly yours and forces you to confront a reality that demands authenticity over comfort. What feels like a pause in your life is not a delay, it is a threshold, a doorway between two versions of your existence. You are standing in a space where the past can no longer continue, but the future has not yet fully formed. And this space, as uncomfortable as it may feel, is sacred, because it is here that transformation becomes irreversible. You cannot carry your old identity into your next reality, and so the universe does something that can feel frustrating, even painful. It slows everything down. It removes distractions that once kept you busy. It creates distance between you and what no longer aligns. It places you in stillness, not to trap you, but to prepare you. Because if everything moved quickly right now, you would step into your next chapter carrying the weight of your past, and that weight would collapse the very future meant for you. So instead, you are held here, in this in-between space, where clarity feels just out of reach and certainty dissolves into something deeper. This is not where your life stops. This is where your life reorganizes itself at the deepest level, where the unseen begins to shape what will soon become visible. For as long as you can remember, there has been a quiet awareness within you that you are not quite like everyone else. It's not something you could easily explain, and perhaps you even tried to ignore it at times, to blend in, to follow the same patterns as those around you. But that feeling never fully disappeared. You think differently, you feel more deeply, you notice things that others overlook. And while this sensitivity may have once felt like a burden, it is actually a form of perception that most people never develop. You are never meant to fit into a system that requires you to disconnect from your intuition. You were designed to see beyond it, to feel the subtle layers of reality that others dismiss. And right now, that sensitivity is intensifying. You may feel more aware of energy, more affected by your environment, more drawn to solitude or reflection. This is not weakness. This is expansion. You are not imagining the shift happening within you. You are remembering a deeper part of yourself that has always been there, waiting for the moment when you were ready to access it. What feels like things falling apart in your life is not destruction. It is intentional deconstruction. The universe is not randomly taking things away from you. It is carefully removing what cannot exist in the reality you are stepping into. You may have noticed relationships becoming strained, goals losing their meaning, or motivation fading without clear reason. This can feel confusing, even unsettling, because it disrupts your sense of stability. But this is not happening because you are losing your way. It is happening because your old way is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. Transformation does not happen by gently transitioning from one life to another. It happens by breaking the illusion of the life that was never truly yours. And yes, it requires letting go before you can see what is coming next. It requires trust in the unseen, patience in the unknown, and the willingness to stand in uncertainty without rushing back to what is familiar. This is the space where your new life is being formed, even if you cannot yet see its shape. There comes a moment in this process where the signals become impossible to overlook, where the patterns in your life start to form a message so clear that ignoring it is no longer an option. You begin to notice the synchronicities repeating themselves, the same thoughts returning with quiet persistence, the same inner nudges guiding you towards something you cannot fully define. It feels as though something is trying to reach you, not from outside, but from within and beyond at the same time. The universe does not communicate in direct language. It speaks through timing, through emotion, through the alignment of events that seemed too precise to be accidental. And right now, it is speaking to you with urgency, through the discomfort you feel, through the delays that test your patience, through the quiet knowing that something significant is approaching. This is not a random phase of your life. It is a turning point. You are being prepared for a shift that will not just change your circumstances, but redefine your entire direction. And the more you pay attention, the more you will realize that nothing you are experiencing is meaningless. Every moment, every feeling, every disruption is guiding you toward a version of yourself that is ready to step into what was once only a distant possibility, but is now becoming inevitable. There is a moment in every transformation that feels almost invisible when it arrives, a quiet shift that does not announce itself with noise or spectacle, yet alters everything beneath the surface. You may not recognize it immediately because it does not come as sudden success or dramatic change. Instead, it comes as a subtle, internal realignment, a calmness where there was once resistance, a clarity that replaces confusion without explanation. This is the moment when the energy that has been building within you begins to move outward, when the stillness you were held in starts to release its grip, not because time has suddenly decided to favor you, but because you have become aligned enough to receive what was always waiting for you. The weight you have been carrying begins to feel lighter, not because your circumstances have fully changed yet, but because your relationship to them has shifted. And that shift is everything. It is the turning point where you stop forcing and start allowing, where you stop questioning your path and begin to trust the direction you are being guided toward. Most people miss this moment because they are looking for something loud, something obvious, but you feel it, don't you? That quiet sense that something is finally beginning to move. You have questioned the timing of your life more times than you can count. You have wondered why things didn't happen when you were ready, why opportunities seemed to pass you by, why your efforts did not always lead to immediate results. It felt unfair at times, as if you were being overlooked or held back for reasons you could not understand. But what you are beginning to realize now is that your delay was never a denial. It was protection. It was preparation. Because if certain doors had opened earlier, you would have walked through them as a version of yourself that was not yet ready to sustain what was on the other side. You would have received things you could not fully hold, stepped into roles you could not fully embody, and eventually, those experiences would have collapsed under the weight of misalignment. So you were delayed, not because you were unworthy, but because what is meant for you requires stability, awareness, and a depth that could only be built through time and challenge. What felt like being left behind was actually being set apart, not because you were forgotten, but because your path was being shaped with a precision that could not be rushed. There is a version of you that cannot come with you into what is unfolding next. A version built from survival patterns, from past wounds, from beliefs that were formed in moments when you did not yet know your own power. This version of you has served its purpose, even if that purpose was simply to get you through difficult times. But now, it is being asked to dissolve. And that process can feel disorienting because you may not fully recognize yourself the way you used to. The things that once defined you begin to fade. The roles you played no longer fit. The ways you responded to life start to change without conscious effort. This is not a loss of identity. It is a release of limitation. You are not losing who you are. You are shedding who you had to be in order to survive. And as that version of you falls away, there may be moments of emptiness, moments where you feel uncertain about who you are becoming, but that space is not meant to be filled with fear. It is meant to be filled with possibility. Because in that space, you are free to become something that is not defined by your past, but by your alignment with what is true for you now. As you release what no longer aligns, you create space for something new to enter, something that matches the frequency you have been rising into. This new energy does not arrive in the same way your old experiences did. It feels different. It feels lighter, more natural, more in flow. Opportunities begin to appear that feel aligned rather than forced. Connections begin to form that feel genuine rather than draining. Ideas begin to surface that feel inspired rather than obligated. This is the result of the internal work you have been doing, even when it felt like nothing was happening. You have been shifting your energy, and now your external reality is beginning to reflect that shift. But this requires awareness, because the new often arrives quietly. It does not always look like what you expected. It may come in forms that challenge your old ways of thinking, asking you to trust something unfamiliar. And this is where your growth is tested, not in your ability to recognize what is leaving, but in your willingness to embrace what is arriving. One of the most difficult parts of this journey is learning to trust what has not yet fully revealed itself. You are being guided towards something that you cannot completely visualize, something that exists just beyond your current understanding. And that uncertainty can feel uncomfortable because the mind seeks clarity, control, and predictability. But this path is not about control. It is about alignment. You are not meant to see every step before you take it. You are meant to feel your way forward, to trust the signals, the intuition, the quiet knowing that has been guiding you all along. This is not blind faith. It is deep awareness. It is the recognition that even when you cannot see the full picture, you are still being led in the right direction. Every experience you have gone through has prepared you for this moment. Even the ones that felt like setbacks, even the ones that made no sense at the time, they were all shaping your ability to trust, to adapt, to move forward without needing absolute certainty. And now, that ability is becoming one of your greatest strengths. There comes a point where everything you have experienced begins to align in a way that feels almost undeniable, where the confusion starts to clear and a deeper sense of purpose begins to emerge. This is not something that is handed to you all at once. It unfolds gradually, revealing itself through moments of clarity, through experiences that feel meaningful, through a growing sense that you are exactly where you need to be. This is the activation of your true path, not as a fixed destination, but as a living, evolving journey that responds to your growth. You begin to see how the challenges you faced were not random, but necessary, how they shaped your perspective, your resilience, your understanding of yourself and the world. And with that realization comes a shift in how you move forward. You no longer chase what is not aligned. You no longer settle for what does not resonate. You begin to choose based on truth rather than fear, based on alignment rather than expectation. And that choice changes everything. This is the moment where the pattern that has been repeating in your life begins to lose its hold, where the cycles that once felt inescapable start to dissolve. Not because something outside of you has changed, but because you have changed. The way you respond, the way you perceive, the way you engage with your reality is no longer the same. And because of that, the outcomes begin to shift. The situations that once triggered the same responses no longer have the same power over you. The paths that once led to the same endings begin to open into something new. This is how cycles break, not through force, but through transformation. You are no longer operating from the same level of awareness, and that changes the trajectory of everything that follows. This is where the feeling of being stuck finally releases, not as a sudden escape, but as a natural result of the growth you have undergone. You are no longer in the same place, even if it may look that way on the surface. Internally, everything has shifted, and that internal shift is now beginning to shape your external reality in ways you are only starting to see. When you look back at this phase of your life, you will not see it as a time where nothing was happening. You will see it as the moment where everything was being prepared. You will understand that what felt like stillness was actually precision, that what felt like delay was actually alignment, that what felt like confusion was actually transformation in progress. You were never stuck. You were being positioned for a reality that required you to become more aware, more aligned, more connected to your true self. And now, as the energy begins to move again, as the path begins to reveal itself, you carry with you a level of understanding that cannot be taken away. You move forward not with uncertainty, but with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have already navigated the hardest part, the part where nothing made sense, yet you continued anyway. And that is what sets you apart. Not because your journey was easy, but because you stayed through the moments that would have made others turn back. And now, everything that once felt unclear is beginning to make sense in a way that changes how you see your entire life. And more importantly, how you choose to live it from this moment on.